Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Tuesday, April 18, 2023. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Self says he does not allow opposition leaders and their parties to impose on the fight against crime. In remarks on day one at the CARICOM Regional Symposium, Violence as a Public Health Issue, the crime challenge at the Hyatt Residency in Port-au-Prince, Trinidad and Tobago yesterday, Prime Minister Gonsalves said he does not tolerate being swayed from doing his work on behalf of the people he serves, claiming that opposition parties almost never have anything positive or beneficial to contribute to their government's efforts to combat crime.
Around the region, opposition parties are saying, I want to work with you in dealing with crime. Don't believe that at all. The opposition parties are interested in the following things: to oppose, to expose, and to depose constitutionally. They don't have anything to propose. I haven't heard any of them proposing anything. And they can fool other people. They're not fooling me. I'm too long in this game to be fooled with these kinds of considerations. We need to have a mature, realistic contribution. And I come back to all what I've said, and to add this: we have to be able to communicate well with our young people, especially our young males, and we have to use the cultural artists, the entertainers, the sports personalities, and others who are sensible and mature, who can help us with this particular challenge we have. The last thing you need to want to help you with this is an opposition politician who wants to get involved with you to try to undermine you in doing your work to make the place safer.
Prime Minister Gonsalves, who has a long career in law, went on to condemn the justice system for being too easy on criminals.
And too many of our judges and our magistrates are too soft. Sometimes you get the impression that some magistrates, depending on who is the lawyer, their people seem to get a better treatment, their clients. Everybody talks about this, but they talk about it behind closed doors. You don't hear it from a prime minister. Well, let us begin to talk about these things too. All of these matters touch and concern how we are going to address this question. We have put a lot of resources, this Caribbean, into the police, into crime fighting, in the judiciary, in the prosecution service, and more money ought to be put. We have to do several of the things regionally, and we have to update our laws. Of course, making sure that when we update our laws, that our laws are reasonably required for the protection and the promotion of in defense of public order and public safety, and are reasonably these laws are reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. So I'm not calling for any totalitarian measure. I'm not calling for that. But there is, in aspects of our judiciary, a creeping lack of awareness as to some of the problems which we face. How can you go and give up somebody who is charged for murder bail?
Dr. Gonsalves also told the Regional Symposium that he believes that the death penalty will assist greatly in the elimination of homicides throughout the region.
And I am a Roman Catholic. The Catholic Church preaches that we shouldn't have the death penalty. And my mother was a Catholic, Legion of Mary. She taught me that we mustn't have the death penalty. I happen to think that both my mother and the Pope are wrong. For crimes, for murder, other than a crime of passion, you should get the death penalty. I know the Europeans don't like that. They had it for a long time, and they may want not to give aid if you bring it back, and so on and so forth. But I am satisfied, being as a legal practitioner for many years, that most of the people who do killing, they are cowards. Never mind this macho thing which you see they may present. They're absolute cowards. And if we have that as a particular option in the punishment schedule, and for the courts not to make it very well nigh impossible to carry out the death penalty. What I'm talking here, people in the taverns across Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados and so on are talking these things, you know.
Meanwhile, addressing day 2 of the regional conference today, Prime Minister Gonsalves told the gathering that there has been a misconception in some circles with an instinctive gut reaction against crime being looked at as a public health issue.
No one here has said, and no one will say, that the issue of crime is one-dimensional. Indeed, the opening remarks by the Prime Ministers of Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago made it pellucid that this is a multifaceted matter requiring a total society approach, and that it is important at this particular historical juncture to emphasize within the broad issue of addressing crime, violence, and citizen security, to highlight the public health dimension of this particular problem. So to the extent that anyone conceives that there is any tension between a public health approach and a command and control approach, for instance, there is nothing wrong if there are tensions. The question is this: how does one resolve these tensions? In any given situation, there are inherent contradictions and tensions. They are not either or. Indeed, if anyone maturely approaches any question before our consideration in the area of public policy in either or terms, one misses the subtleties and the dialectical nature in the way in one analyzes and fashions solutions. So I think I want to get that out of the way very, very early.
Members of the newly formed National Liberation Movement, an association which is made up of concerned citizens, held a small protest action today opposite the High Court building, where the matter concerning the government's application for a stay of execution of the judgment handed down by Justice Esco Henry in the vaccine mandate case was being heard. Last month, Justice Henry ruled in favor of the public sector unions representing the dismissed workers who were deemed to have abandoned their jobs under the government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. The judge deemed the government's action as unconstitutional and unlawful and ruled that the dismissed workers are entitled to their full pay and all benefits in their respective capacities, inclusive of any accrued pension and gratuity benefits or rights from the respective dates on which they were deemed to have resigned. The government's legal team has since filed a notice of appeal and application for a stay on the execution of the judgment. On the picket line today, members of the National Liberation Movement called on the government to adhere to the court ruling and pay the affected workers their money.
You would have heard that we are here today in protest against the legal system of this country, whereby our civil servants would have gotten their justice in the court, and the government of this country want to reverse that judgment. And everyone knew what this judgment is all about. A people who decided that their God-given rights to keep their body outside of COVID-19 vaccine. Eventually, this is the basic reason why we are here today, to protest against the draconian laws of our country.
Today to say that any attempt to overturn that, we will stand up, we will push back, we will fight, not with guns and ammunition, but we will raise our voices, raise our concerns, because our people, fellow Vincentians, are suffering. Many of them wanted to be here today, but they couldn't. Why? They didn't have monies to pay to come to Kingston. But we are taking our fight, we are taking our concerns to the people of this country. Yes? And that is what we are about. So we've gotten permission to stand here today, at least to protest our dislike of what is happening. That's where we are. That's why we are here.
Are you planning to continue another day?
Today we have permission for today here in Kingston. But yes, there are other activities, and you will be duly informed when the time comes, because we understand there are a number of issues out there that we've got to raise our voice on, and we are going to educate and re-educate St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There are many persons that know and understand but are afraid to speak out, and we are saying, don't be afraid. We are one Vincentian people. Hunger knows no color, none. And the resources of this country are the resources of this country. Many of us vote along party lines, and that's the problem. But gone are the days when we should become so isolated and so unfeeling to say, well, those over yonder, we're not really concerned about them because all is well with us here.
Pay the people their money. Give the people their job. I beg you, I just crossed a violent ocean to bring you this message. This is a historic moment in our country, and this evil will never be forgotten. Oh God, end the suffering in our country. Give the teachers, give the people back their job.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines owes just over 200 million EC dollars on the Argyle International Airport. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Savs, who spoke on the matter on WFM's Issues at Hand program on Sunday.
You know what we owe on the airport now? Under $200 million. I'm going to tell you the numbers which are inside the budget for the airport, in the estimates and the profile for the public debt. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 loans from Taiwan in relation to the airport. The number now is $49.7 million in the aggregate, with interest rates ranging between 2.76 to 2.83. Yeah, Joel? Very soft money. Then the ALBA, $93.8 million. One loan, the biggest one, which is still there, $67.5 million, is at 2%, and smaller one of $26 million is at 6%. And then, remember when we did all the equipment, we borrowed money through North Star Finance. You remember that? In the United Kingdom for equipment and the like now. Mm-hmm. And through those financing arrangements, that's $14.2 million, which is what remains there. And then CARICOM Development Fund, a number about $8 million. Well, that doesn't deal, not all of that remains for the airport, but if you put it, you're talking about $164 million.
Speaking of how the loans for the airport are decreasing, Prime Minister Gansavs noted that the country received debt relief in 2 tranches on the Petrocarib debt.
We got significant debt relief in 2 tranches. From first 50% and then 100% of the Petrocarib debt. Remember that?
Yes.
From Venezuela. And we have significant monies from Petrocarib went to Argyle. Separate from the Alba Bank. Mm-hmm. Or the government of Venezuela itself through a particular fund. You imagine you have an airport which is built for $700 and something million, but valued in excess of $1 billion because of what we got in kind. And we opened it in February 2017. And Joel, you owe under $200 million. You're a big businessman.
Yes, I
I also wanted to get a sense of, some of them say that nothing happens, nothing, there's been no development, no improvement in St. Vincent. All those loans were range between 20 and 22 years with 5 years grace. So they are long amortization periods and low interest rate.
The Prime Minister said there are lies being propagated about the Argyle International Airport, particularly with its accounts.
Everything. The audited accounts for the International Airport Development Corporation, IADC, the state-owned company, the audited accounts are at SIPO. They're there. Anybody can go and pay 50 cents a dollar or whatever the amount of money now and get a copy. Yeah. It's there. So because they have done it already and they have no queries, you see. Okay. So what you do, since you don't have any queries there, you raise a process point that the accounts has never come to Parliament. The accounts, but the accounts, what you owe in the estimates, in the debt figure, and how the money was being spent is there in the audited accounts of the company. The IADC, the accounts of VINLEC don't come to Parliament either, because VINLEC is a company. The reporting requirement there is under the Companies Act, is to SIPO. And if it's a statutory body, the reporting arrangement is to Parliament. I mean, we have gone over these things over and over, but some of these guys have these talking points, and then they get other individuals who should know better, some of them, and they just repeat these talking points. And people get tired of that kind of stuff, you know. This negativism and this bile and anger and always, accusations without any foundation.
AC $652 million airport project was jointly financed by a number of countries. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines provided EC $175 million for the project, which was raised by selling Crown lands. The remaining amount was financed through grants and soft loans from the Republic of Cuba, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and the governments of Taiwan, Trinidad and Tobago, Mexico, Austria, Malaysia, Turkey, Iran, Portugal, and Libya. Taiwan provided US $26.5 million for the terminal construction. The CARICOM Development Fund, the CDF, also provided a loan of EC $14 million in September of 2010 and another subsequent loan of EC $8.8 million in October of 2012. Child neglect is one of the most popular cases of child abuse that has been reported to the Child Protection Unit in the Ministry of National Mobilization last year. This is according to child protection caseworker in the ministry, Camille McIntosh, during a program on NBC Radio Today. McIntosh said statistics from 2022 show there were 190 reports of children being neglected or abused.
Approximately about 43% of those reports are child neglect, 30% are physical abuse, 24% sexual abuse, and 3% psychological abuse. Now, this number represents reports. These are persons who would come forward and say, well, this is happening to a child and we need you to deal with it. But I'm pretty sure, we are pretty sure basically that there are others out there that we don't know about. You have to be able to report. Which kind of brings me to the fact that we are, according to our Children Care and Adoption Act, we have mandated reporters. These persons who, once they know that a child has been abused, they have to report. So you have persons in health, education, law enforcement, social welfare, and it basically goes on to say anybody who has the care and responsibility of a child, they must report if they see, they suspect, or they know that a child has been abused.
This month is being observed as Child Awareness Month under the theme, "You have the power to create a better future for us so that children treat us well." Speaking of the activities and strategies that the Ministry of National Mobilization are using to bring awareness to child abuse in SVG, McIntosh highlighted some community programs.
Since we, as in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have signed and ratified to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child since in 1993. Now, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, it gives rights and freedoms to children. And we have to recognize, respect, and protect children as, of course, unique and valuable human beings. So we make persons aware, of course, by, all these media programs that we do. We do go into schools, we talk to the children, we talk to parents. So we do workshops in communities. So we talk to the parents about, child abuse. How do they recognize child abuse? What do they do if they know a child or if their children have been abused? We've also had other programs where we invite other stakeholders, so the persons who we would work along with, from education, police, nursing, health, basically. We would also have sessions with them so that we know, how do we work together to prevent child abuse. We observe Fridays as what we call Blue Friday. So we wear the color blue just to show our support to victims of child abuse. And we, anybody would ask, you would say, well, I'm in support of persons who help child abuse victims.
Defining abuse as the deliberate act of ill treatment that can harm or likely cause harm to a child's safety, well-being, dignity, and development, McIntosh encouraged persons to report any suspected incident of child abuse.
We do encourage the reporting by persons even in communities. You can come to the department, you can even go to the police, and you can do it anonymously. We don't require you to give your name or anything. We just need to know the information on the child. So you can come to our department. We are in Kingstown, just across the street from the Central Post Office, where QCare Pharmacy used to be. You can come and speak to any one of us. Let us know what is happening. What do you know about the child? Where can we find the child? Name, parents' name, all of that. What do you know, so that we can go forward with our investigation? Okay, well, of course, once we get the information, the next thing we would have to do is our investigation. And one of the first things that we have to do is to, of course, talk to the child. We need to find that child. We need to find out from that child, what has happened, who did this to you, where do we go from here? Then we would, of course, have to involve the police, because, like I say, we do work very closely with the police. The police, of course, deals with the perpetrator, and we deal with in the best interest of the child. From there, they may need to remove the child from the home for whatever reason, especially if the perpetrator is in that home. But of course, we will talk to the parents or the guardian. We have to inform them of what is happening, because at the end of the day, we have to work along with the family of the child.
The topic of police detective public perception, expectations, and reality was discussed last evening on the Police on the Beat program. During the discussion, challenges faced when collecting and analyzing evidence were highlighted by Station Sergeant Ashlyn Samuel Bristol and Sergeant Elmore Alexander.
You have things like proper equipment to store exhibits. That are one of the challenges that I encountered, and I hope to see some improvement on that soon. As I say, I would have made on the proposal, and I know that I was given the assurance that in time to come, in a short period, I should receive these things. And then one of the other challenges I encounter is inadequate spacing to store, because if you pay attention, recently we've been having a lot of serious crimes, and because of that, the spacing that we have being so build up. So I'm hoping that in itself will get some attention in the near future.
And for the listening public, this is not to say that the police doesn't have the means of storing and preserving evidence. It's just that because of how dynamic the investigations are, you always have to be keeping updating and getting better.
Correct.
So I don't want then the takeaway from the statement to be that the police don't have no way to store. No, that's not what he's saying at all. With everything we have to always have a update and get better.
Yep.
And we are always getting better.
Speaking on the different aspects of a crime scene, Sergeant Alexander said that the ABC method is important to collect evidence.
The ABC of a crime scene, that is, when you enter a crime scene, you assume nothing. That is to say that you go to the crime scene, you see certain things within the crime scene, you collect everything. Then the B inside it is believe no one, because you might be there with other colleagues, and you all checking the scene, you're collecting, and then you might ask him, did you search that cupboard? He might say yes, or he might say I can't remember. So it's within you to go and double check, because he might just oversight something that you may end up and find and check everything around you. And then I think you will get the whole scene covered in that aspect. So the ABC, when it comes to crime scene, is very important.
On the issue of confidentiality as it relates to police officers, Station Sergeant Samuel Bristol urged his colleagues to be ethical in their duties.
Confidentiality and, being honest to your profession come from way back. Come from your background. You come from who you are. You come from what you were taught, being in the force, your ethics, things you need to do, things you shouldn't do. And the public is relying on us. And they will give us information, and they want to be reassured that whatever they give, whoever they speak to, it's there. We don't have no need to be repeating things, and especially saying where the information comes from. So I urge persons to be honest, to be ethical, and to basically live up to what the public expect from us as police officers.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
In terms of the future growth of the detective unit of the RSVG Police Force, a Sergeant of Police Alexander noted that the unit is doing a fairly good job thus far, and they are hoping to have more advanced equipment to their disposal, including a forensic laboratory. In other news, now over 30 lecturers at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, the SVG-CC, are now better equipped in the delivery of online teaching, having participated in a training workshop hosted by the college in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Learning SCOL. The workshop, facilitated by a co-consultant, Dr. Shotzel Moore, was the first phase of the training program. The sessions aim to enhance the pedagogical skills of the lecturers in delivering online and blended courses. A news release from the college said during the 4-day workshop, participants focused on the practical and theoretical aspects of online and blended learning, included identifying strategies to successfully transition a face-to-face course to an online or blended one, identifying best practices related to course structure and navigation, developing a plan for designing and delivering online course content, and formulating strategies to explore and adapt new technologies to incorporate with the college's learning management system. Several lecturers were recognized during the workshop, including Dexter Small for Best Course Design, Joseph Bob, Lafern Fraser, Delicia Marshall, Suzette Rogers, Bernard Oliver, and Simon Roberts Kent were also recognized for excellent course designs. The training program will continue online through the college's e-learning platform. Last Sunday, April 16th, was a delightful day for several children and their parents at the annual kite flying competition and festival held at the decommissioned E.T. Joshua Airport grounds. The kite flying competition included several judge categories. The winners are as follows. Best KFC Kite, Josiah Cambridge. Best Traditional Kite, Dale Thomas. Most Creative Kite, Leroy Llewellyn. Most Colorful Kite went to Leah Soares. A kid winner under 12 went to Alicia Denny. Teen winner, which is between the ages of 13 to 17, went to Joshua Kozia. The adult winner was Leroy Llewellyn, and King of the Tarmac also went to Leroy Llewellyn.